Hello there. Okay, so probably wait a few minutes for people to come in. Um, so I thought today we'd talk about some of the different types of breath work and, well, of course, anything that anyone else wants to talk about as well. People are more than welcome to join me as usual. But I was asked a question, so I want to. Hello there. Very nice of you to join me, Satya. Very much. Thank you for joining. So I was asked a question during the week. Someone was talking about the Wim Hof method, for example. Hello, Jeannie. And the differences in some of the breathwork techniques out there. And this is something a lot of people are probably going to. Hey, Lainey, how you doing? Good to see you. So as I was saying, the current state of things at the moment, like people think that the Wim Hof method, for example, George, how you doing? Is something new. Like this is like a new lifestyle hack, right? But when we're talking about breath work, there are numerous amounts of techniques. There's probably like I've got a book full of them. Actually, I've been studying this for the last few years. Let me see. I've got several books actually full of notebooks, different techniques. I could probably go through a list of almost 60 of them. But the question I got was, has anyone tried the Wim Hof app or the Wim Hof method? Now, I quite like the Wim Hof method. It is a very good method, but it is based in Tummo breathing. Okay. But where it comes to, when we're talking about breath work, this is not a new lifestyle hack that Wim Hof started himself. Okay. This is something he learned from all kinds of various cultures. And he put this together using one Tummo breathing, then the breath holds that come from another technique. And it sort of evolved from there. But, every culture around the world, like every culture, like we're talking about from cavemans to like yogis in India to shamans in Siberia and all these other different cultures, they all have breathwork history, right? And different reasons for doing it. Hello there, Jimmy. Nice of you to join us. So today I thought maybe we could talk a bit more about that if you are interested, of course. If anyone wants to join me, the link is in the chat there. G'day, John. Good to see you. So, I mean, when I talk about breathwork techniques, the reason why I like to, I think it's a good idea to try different techniques because they all have sort of different outcomes, and it's kind of nuanced to what you prefer, how good you feel on these different techniques. So, like yogic, for example, yogic techniques involve, or most of them involve, very long, slow, prolonged inhales and exhales. Some other techniques will use like a longer inhale to a shorter exhale, and vice versa. I prefer vice versa because the longer the exhale, the more vagal nerve you sort of activate. Right? Whereas oh, thank you, Jim. I really appreciate that. I'm glad they help, actually. Some of the techniques that I combine, a lot of the ones that I combine, are really to do with the fact that they produce the most hormone or antioxidant production, such as nitric oxide, CO2, testosterone, and EPO. Okay, so these are the reasons why I do these techniques, because they stimulate more of those mechanisms, and that's why I put these combinations together. There are many reasons why different cultures from around the world have used these different breathing techniques. For example, even the Plains Indians in America, the only thing they ever ate when Westerners started settling in America, for example, the Plains Indians in America were the tallest race in the world at the time, averaging 6'3", 6'4", or something. But the only food they ever ate was buffalo. But in their philosophy was that food, that buffalo was meat, obviously food, but breath work was medicine. Okay. And in their culture, whenever one of the women had a child, they would train the baby from birth to only breathe through the nose. So they would have like round the clock nursemaids. Whenever the child would wake up or was breathing with their mouth open, they would hold its mouth shut, like pinch its lips together, like, so that they would train it from a very early age, from birth, basically, to only breathe through the nose, which I find is absolutely fascinating. But then you have, like, they also have different techniques for breathing. They have they have the sweat lodge sort of ceremonies, right? But they do kind of like holotropic work, where they do hours long breath work sessions in this sweat tent with the smoke and the fire and everything. It's kind of like a sauna, and doing these great breath work, sort of kind of to exercise the what they call demons or bad energy. And we still use techniques like that today to help people to release trauma, and that's basically the same thing. And every culture, even the Viking berserkers and some of the others, like the Siberian shamans, for example, would use similar techniques to help people to deal with what we would call today post-traumatic stress disorder, because of what they labeled as a warrior's curse. Right? George, how are you?
Hey, I'm very well, thanks, mate. Just listening to the Plains Indian stories, which I'm a great fan of the history of the West, so it's very interesting to me.
Yeah, it's very cool stuff, actually. And it was the same with like the like I was just talking about the warrior's curse. We're talking about like Viking berserkers, for example. In their culture, it was considered like the warrior's curse would be like obviously what we would call today probably post-traumatic stress disorder. And they would use these breathwork techniques, these very deep, heavy breathing techniques, to help people release trauma, and sort of reset their nervous system. Because I mean, you can imagine, like, going through battles like that, it would be pretty brutal sort of stuff, as it is even today. But people today are dealing with PTSD before they even get deployed, soldiers and so on. So these are techniques that I think that could be very useful even in today's world. But it just shows you how old the breathwork techniques have been, like how long for many thousands of years. A lot of people see these breathwork techniques like Wim Hof, for example, and Buteyko and things like that as new age sort of health hacks. But it's really just something that we've lost, and it's something we're sort of getting back, really. So it's part of our ancestral sort of lifestyle, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got a story from 2017 when I was a security guard on a building site, and we had a robbery. A group of lads drove onto site, stole a bit of surveying equipment. I heard the shout go up, so I came out of my sentry hut, if you like the gatehouse, as they were driving very quickly off site. The bloke saw me, and I don't know whether he deliberately tried to run me down, or whether he sort of ended up steering towards me. But I had to jump back very quickly. He would have actually taken my legs out. And drove off site very quickly. I got the registration plate, the vehicle registration number, and the guy opposite me got the make of the car. So we were able to report it successfully to the police. But it was actually quite a traumatic experience, because I realised that that it was a near miss. And when I was actually trying to report it to the police, I ended up hyperventilating because I was in a state of trauma. So I then didn't know that's on DC. It was a long time before, but I had to control my breathing. But it was a stress incident, a traumatic incident, which caused me to actually lose control of my breathing as I was trying to speak. If I wasn't trying to speak, it was okay, but it was only when I was trying to speak and describe what had happened that obviously I was trying to remember it. So the description of the memory,
you're
relived it. So that put me into trauma. So yeah, I had to really control my breathing. So I guess that was breathwork in its own right. Plus the fact that I'm a qualified first aider at work, and if somebody's hyperventilating, I think you get them to breathe into a paper bag, or because that actually causes them to concentrate on their breathing. So yeah, it's true that even in the modern day, breathwork is considered it's a remedy for not post-traumatic stress disorder necessarily, but actually the actual
trauma.
Trauma. Absolutely.
Any kind of trauma like that. Like, I mean, the paper bag thing is actually not a really good idea, but it does, like you said, like it helps them to concentrate on their breath, and that's where they calm down into that ventral vagal state, right? But it's something that it's not something that people put a lot of thought into these days, obviously, but it is it's great that it's been popularized by people like Wim Hof and others. But there are so many more techniques. There are so many other ways that we can help our bodies to make progress, or to let go of trauma, and to regulate our nervous system, and to also help us heal. And like I said, like the Plains Indians consider breathwork as being medicine. There are tribal people will use it. You can use it to hype yourself up and get yourself into that that fearless state, into that warrior state before you go into battle, sort of thing. But then you can, also need to keep your calm while you are in battle, and this is something that the samurai, for example, and, I've been studying with the Shaolin Temple in Europe as well this year, and they do exactly the same thing. It's about keeping a calm state of mind in a very intense situation, right? But even modern day warriors today, like the American SEALs, Navy SEALs, they use box breathing and other techniques to keep themselves calm while they're in battle. The Australian SAS, they do the same thing. They use very long, slow, controlled breathing techniques to keep themselves calm, especially when they are on the job, or in battlefields, or wherever they might be deployed. Otherwise, and I mean, you just lose your shit, So, as I'm sure you'd completely understand with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I mean, you often hear, the advice when somebody's a bit stressed and a bit angry, you often hear just breathe. That is often the first response. I mean, we're not talking about formal breath work there. We just, when people are sort of like angry.
Well, what's the first thing that happens when you kick your toe, for example? Like, you injure yourself, you hit your thumb with a hammer, or you kick your toe on some furniture or something, the first thing you do is you start deep breathing, and that alleviates the pain, right?
Yeah.
Because you activate your vagus nerve. That's, I mean, because your vagus nerve is connected to everything in your body, and it's like your organ tissue, hormone production, digestion, heart rate, all of that is connected to your vagus nerve. And when you kick your toe, the first thing you do after you finish swearing is like, okay, deep breathing, and then pain just dissipates, right? So, yeah, I mean, we just naturally do it, and it's unfortunate that it's something that we've lost in our culture for some time, obviously. But these techniques from all over the world, and every culture has had them in their past, and every culture has used them over the for more than for tens of thousands of years, really. So it's not a new thing.
Talking about the trance-like state, you referred to the Norse, the Viking berserkers. The berserkers a trance-like state in battle. And also, I know that before the Battle of the Little Bighorn, Sitting Bull, the chief, put himself into a trance-like state with the sun dance. I can't remember now, but it was he actually witnessed the fall of the victory of the Sioux Indians over Custer's 7th Cavalry. He actually predicted it and witnessed it. And strangely enough, he also said that they mustn't loot the dead bodies, otherwise it would be bad news for them. And of course, what happened was that they did go out and loot the dead bodies, and then they didn't win the ensuing battles. So so Sitting Bull put himself into a trance before the Battle of the Little Bighorn, which must have been a common thing for the Plains Indians. So it's the
absolutely, and
definitely
that's a common thing, like a common theme. Like the Roman soldiers would do the same thing. They would use breathwork to get themselves into a trance before battle. They would also do these things afterwards to bring themselves back into a calm, natural state. That's where you get like some of the best philosophers, some of the more famous philosophers that we hear from, like from the past today, like Marcus Aurelius, even Musashi from Japan, who's a samurai, from all different worlds, the different cultures, were also the most fierce and most feared warriors. So you get that warrior state, and you get that philosopher state. So I think it's really important that people understand that the way that you can control your nervous system so that you can go from one to the other, we can consciously do that by simply adjusting the way we breathe, and it's, I mean, it does, like I said, or even with the pain, like pain thresholds and things like that, like the Viking berserkers, for example, when they're in like that frenzy state for battle, they felt no pain. It's like the same with the Celtics, the Scottish Highlanders, and so they were exactly the same. They were fearless, and they were very much feared because they had such a high pain threshold.
Yeah, I mean, we see the same thing in warm-ups in physical contact sports today. Rugby, that huddle at the beginning of the game, when everybody sort of got all heads in together, and there's that motivational goes on, it always ends up with them breaking away and giving a battle cry of some description.
That's right.
And exactly. That the idea there is that you get your mindset to the point where you don't feel that. Having played rugby a lot myself, I know that to be the case, because when the adrenaline's running high, obviously you don't feel the pain at the time. When your old friend adrenaline wears off, then that's when the pain sets in. But But I think adrenaline is probably designed to stop you from feeling pain. Is it? I would imagine it's
in the moment. Yeah,
exactly.
In the moment.
And that's the difference between adrenaline
later on, when you calm down and you start feeling the pain, then you go into that deep breathing so that you can control the pain. Right.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Like you see, like the Kiwis with their haka. Yeah. You see their war dance. Have a look at the way they breathe. Okay, that action, like the Japanese samurai would have a battle cry like that too. They actually had like a full technique where they breathe in and then just like shout it out. It's not just to scare the people there, not just to scare their enemies, but also to bring their adrenaline up and to make them feel it. They feel powerful doing it.
I mean, the word that I like to use,
then in
the word
battle,
that I use a lot is mindset, and that helps them put them in the correct the mindset for battle. So it's very important. I mean, I use mindset quite a lot because when we go the way that we eat, carnivore in my case, we have to change our mindset. So it's almost like going into battle in some ways, because we are having to change the way we think about what we've always been taught. So that is a long-term change of mindset. But when you're ready to go back into battle, the haka and the sun dancer, war dancer for the American Indians, that changes their mindset for to get them ready for battle. And even the pep, a pep talk, like, I remember when we invaded the Kuwait back in 91, Major Turpin gave us a pep talk before we advanced to battle, and it was a rousing talk to sort of get us all on board and ready for the.
That's where that sort of stuff comes from, like that's where it all starts, isn't it? It's all about motivating your warriors.
I mean, what was the speech that Nelson? It wasn't a speech, but he sent a semaphore signal, Nelson, before the Battle of Trafalgar. England expects at this day every man shall do his duty, and that was him calling upon his sailors, as they were versus soldiers, to actually do their duty for England. So that was he was calling on their raw passion, if you like, for their country, for their patriotism.
That's right.
So again, to make them braver. It's interesting, but it's all about mindset and breathing, obviously.
That's right. And it's not something that you do on a once-off either. It's something that you train your warriors to do. That this is what it all comes from, the training, right? It's because you are training your nervous system. Everything takes repetition. So that, I mean, you go through boot camp, you go through specialist training, you go through all these other different trainings. But it's all about training your nervous system so that okay, in this situation, this is what I need to do. And it's the same thing with, like, as simple as sort of bring it down to the simplest form, but that's what you're doing for an ice bath, for example. When you get in the first thing in the morning, you jump in the ice, you are training your nervous system to react a certain way to a stressor, and that's how, like, you jump in the ice, you just calmly breathe, you calm your nervous system down after that initial shock, and then everything else the rest of the day is not so shocking or alerting to you. You sort of calm yourself, and that's what it's just like. It's just exactly what happens when you're training your warriors.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a classic case. Lainey's watching this in the next room to me, and as you know, on February the 1st, she started cold showering. We're now February the 20th here, and 21st with you, I think. And the cold showers aren't so loud anymore as they used to be when she first started, because she has trained herself to actually, I presume there's a lot of breath work involved in that. Certainly when I try, I end up gasping. So I do have to control my breathing if I try cold showers. And I've only tried a couple compared to her, but she's actually got used to the cold showers now. So again, it's repetition.
Yeah. Exactly.
Actually, the Arabs have got an interesting proverb, which is "Ya'alim atakrir al-himar," which means even the donkey learns from repetition. So repetition does teach, teach people. I mean, that's really how we train a dog to be an obedient training, isn't it? Repetition.
That's right. I mean, that's how we train our children too, isn't it? Our children grow up from learning from repetition. Like when they first learn to speak, it's because of what they are hearing all around them on a day-to-day basis, right? So, when a child grows up to be a good man or a good, girl or whatever, a good person or bad person, have a look at the way they're raised, have a look at the repetition that they've had in their family and so on. That's what it's all about, training your nervous system, isn't it? So,
Exactly.
Is anyone else finding themselves doing some controlled breathing while sitting here listening to this?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Cynthia's got it right,
it
because I
makes you
don't,
more
know
aware,
about
doesn't it?
everybody else in the audience, but whenever I see DC or think of DC, I always find myself breathing through my nose and out through my mouth. Sometimes because I know that DC is a breathwork coach, I always end up, whenever I see him, I always end up concentrating on my breathing or thinking at least about my breathing. So yeah, so I've kind of associated DC with breathwork nowadays.
That's 80% of the battle, is the fact that as long as you are consciously aware and you are reminding yourself of breathing properly. So most of it's great to do these breathing techniques for different reasons. But the biggest thing is to just remind yourself through the day to just breathe in a normal, relaxed state. Breathe normally is just only breathing through the nose, and as long as you are doing that, you're already ahead of the curve. Like 99% of people do not breathe properly around the world.
Yeah,
That's that's a huge number.
exactly. Our great friend Barbara over in Ohio, she's making a comeback from being housebound to out walking again. And she, I know you've done some work with her. She's very much on board with you, Dave, and she's actually sort of concentrating on trying to breathe properly all the time, because she's
That's good.
she, as you know, she was on really probably what didn't have long to live unless she turned her life around. She has turned her life around, but one of the things that she noticed is she was still a mouth breather. But now she's you work with her, and she is now trying to concentrate on in through the nose, out through the mouth, and it's benefiting her because she's out walking every day. I just watched her latest video, which is a 10-minute walk out in the freezing cold. But she's making great strides, and breath work she has taken on board and is very much part of that. I think everybody in this, everybody knows her here. So yeah, everybody knows who we're talking about.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, going for a walk in the freezing cold, even better. Get your cold therapy at the same time.
Yeah.
But it's remarkable to see the difference. It's really that's what motivates me too, is that seeing people correct the way they do things, that will just make simple changes that have such a big impact on their health. So it's good. That's great to see.
Well, the simplest change of all for me was just eliminating carbohydrates, and that had a huge effect on my health. It's not changing from carbohydrates is not an easy change, but it is a very simple change. It's simplicity, as Dr. Kills would call it, but a lot of people struggle because of addiction. But but I always say that eliminating carbohydrates is simple, but it's not easy. And I guess it's the same thing with concentrating on your breathing. It's a very simple thing to do, but it's not easy, because when you're thinking about other things, when the stresses of life are there, you don't really get a chance to concentrate on your breathing. I mean, I most of the time I don't, but it's like when I see you, I suddenly find myself inflating my chest through my nose, because that's DC. Oh yeah. Let's get that deep breathing going. So it's you have become a trigger for me into
Oh, that's good. Well, I'm glad. Yeah. No, I'm glad, because I mean, people don't understand just how important it is. But like I said, this is about, making your body more efficient, and I mean, that's all we can do. I mean, there's so many things that are wrong with our environment at the moment, that there's things that we just can't control. But the things that we can control, we can do, are going to make everything a lot easier for us. And like you said, like, it is difficult to give up the carbs. I think it's probably one of the more difficult things. But learning to breathe, it's really about just being consciously aware of what you are doing at any given moment. It's also going to help you with your state of mind, in the fact that when you breathe, you can only breathe in that moment, right? You can't breathe in the future or the past. It keeps you focused on the moment. And that in itself is also very calming, because you're not worried about what the future is going to bring. You're not worried about what happened in the past. So this is another good thing about being consciously aware of the way you breathe now is also going to help to bring you into that ventral vagal state as well, that rest and digest area, you know.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
also
Jonathan,
in the water is a good place to learn to breathe, because obviously,
yes,
you know, when I remember learning to swim and trying to do the front crawl or the freestyle, obviously you have to get into a really regular breathing pattern for that, because it's
yeah,
you know, half the time you cannot breathe because your face is underwater, so you have to turn your face to the side to take the breath. So yeah, and also obviously things like free diving are very good, because you know that you know, diving to great depths, they have to train themselves, well, breathwork, in order to actually get to hold. I mean, some of them get down to incredible depths for incredible lengths of time, don't they? Really? So it's
yeah. I think at the
yeah,
moment I think the record's over 240 meters.
good God, that's huge. But I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
let's think about the past as well. Let's think about not necessarily warriors, but the pearl divers. They must have, you know, they must have done an incredible amount of breath work. It must have been part of
absolutely.
their daily routine. You know, so
It's a very different
yeah.
different breathing technique to like say the Wim Hof method and so on as well. Like the, you actually have to avoid the hyperventilation. Like tumor breathing uses a lot of hyperventilation to sort of warm the body and sort of stimulate different things. But with the free diving and these divers, they have to stay in that state of calm before they dive. So try and avoid any kind of hyperventilation, just breathing very easy, very steady state, what they call tidal breathing. And then taking just one big deep breath, kind of like a yogic breath where you breathe in as much air as possible. Like the Shaolin monks they have a technique that's you breathe into the belly, then the diaphragm and chest, and then at the top of the chest, you know. And for them, it's about breathing in as much chi as possible, like as much energy, as much life. But free divers need to do this because they need as much air as possible while they're diving, right? So, like, if you go down 240 meters, you need to come back up 240 meters, right? So it's nearly 500 meters underwater.
Yeah.
So without breathing, and the current world record for a static breath hold underwater is 24 and a half minutes. That's incredible.
That is incredible. I wouldn't have thought that possible, to be perfectly honest with you.
No,
So,
no,
yeah.
myself included. Like, I mean, this is a static hold. Like he wasn't diving; he was just in the water, just floating in the water for the world record. Is in a swimming pool, but it was 24 minutes 37 seconds.
Okay.
That's
I think
incredible.
after about 10 minutes, I'd have carried out a rescue on him, because I would have thought he was
Looked like a floating body there.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Jonathan, good man. Good to see you, man. Hope you're resting up and feeling better. Thank you very much, Josephine, for the super sticker. Really appreciate it. It's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, breathing is so important. Yeah. Well, think about it this way, right? You can go without food for weeks. You can go without water for days. How long can you go without breathing? A few minutes. That's how important it is. Like how many processes that we have. It's the combination of your substrate and the air that you breathe that makes all the biochemistry work, right? So when you eat, you get and in the mitochondria, okay, you get say you get ATP, okay, say energy, so on, CO2, EZ water, and and that all comes from the combination. Like in that little furnace in the mitochondria, is the food is half of it, but the other half is the air. Okay, so O becomes CO2, right? Yeah, it's actually I saw some crazy stuff here. You know, but that's talking about climate change. We'll talk about that another time. But the fact that people think that CO2 is somehow bad for the environment or for humans is just utterly nonsense. And insane. Honestly, it's insane. The reason, I mean, the whole reason they call it a greenhouse gas is because greenhouses use it to grow plants, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. That's the thing too. Is like everything that on this planet works so synergistically perfect. You know, like we breathe out the CO2, the plants give us oxygen, and we create more. It all just works perfectly together. You know.
Yeah, Julie here is talking about the panic disorder. That's what we were discussing earlier. When I suffered the hyperventilation after the robbery, that was me going into panic mode, I suppose. It's yeah, and people talk about panic attacks, don't they? Which can be triggered by trauma. I think that's what.
Well, yeah, that's right. I mean, panic attacks can be triggered by a number of different things, right? I mean, some people will have a panic attack, like first can have a panic attack just waking up in the morning, simply because they are living in that elevated nervous state, that where they are the sympathetic nervous state. Okay, or what you call it, like I mean, if you look at the polyvagal theory, there are 3 different states. And you get up into that dorsal vagal where it's actually depression and panic attacks and anxiety and all that sort of stuff. A lot of that comes down to the fact that they're just not breathing properly. If you are mouth breathing a lot, you are constantly in that sympathetic nervous state, simply because you are, when your nervous system or your body is trained or evolved to think that if you are breathing fast like this, breathing through your mouth, it's because you are running. You are either chasing food or you are running from becoming food for something else, right? So if you are breathing like that while you're sleeping, for example, you're in that either kill or be killed sort of state, that sympathetic nervous state. And if you don't get yourself out of that, it's only going to get worse. So then you get panic attacks, right? And you don't understand why. It's simply because you think, oh, what's going on? Why am I panicking? Why am I so nervous? Sort of thing, even though nothing's happened around you. So this can be simply a breathing method, a breathing consequence, so it's really important that people get this right. George, good to see you there. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I'll try and do as many as I can. Let's see. I'll try and catch up some of these. George, DC, say training. Yeah. Excellent. I'm glad you like the cold showers, Lenny. See, once you get in, actually, it's talking about adapting. It really does happen very quickly. You can train your nervous system very, very quickly. And I think that it helps knowing why it's good for you. For me, it certainly does. I mean, because there are times you just don't feel like getting in the ice, or you think, oh, it's a bit cold this morning, maybe I should skip it, sort of thing. But understanding why it's so good for you, so the processes that it activates in your body, really helps you to get in there and like I said, like you adapt so quickly. In the first week, like, it only took Lainey a good week, and she's loving it. Yeah. So, it's amazing how fast it all happens. Adaptation is very quick. People have always been very good at adapting.
Understanding why we do something is very important. We all, I'm trained on in health and safety, and all the time we're trained to do risk assessments, point of work, power risk, point of work risk assessments. You approach something, and then you train to assess the risk. But risk assessment is constant, absolutely constant in our lives. Every time we cross the road, we look left, we look right. Is it safe to go? It's a question of risk versus reward. If we were totally risk averse, we would never get out of bed. But every day we have to go and get the reward of driving in the car, massively risky, as Dr. Kiltz would say. Then we have to go to work. And this is in order to get the reward of money. and also mental health rewards as well for feeling useful. So every day we are carrying out risk assessments from the second that we actually wake up and put our feet down on the floor. You know, if there's if there's some broken glass on the floor, would you put your foot down? No. So you've done a risk assessment. You actually you would change the way you do stuff. So it's the same. It's the same with understanding risk versus reward. No, let's go back to the carnivore diet. I no longer eat pizza, and the risk there is that my brain, I'm not going to get my dopamine hit like I used to get from pizza. What's the reward? Losing 120 pounds of superfluous fat, no longer having high triglycerides, and brain fog, boils. Yeah, I could list them all, Dave. I won't do so. But yeah, again, this is the point where that no, at the risk of losing the pleasure of the oral pleasure of eating pizza, that is a reward. That was me when I used to have the oral pleasure of eating carbohydrates. That is me. That the reward is me looking and feeling 100%. So risk versus reward. I understood why I gave up pizza. The reward is that there, and Lainey understands why she put herself through a cold shower.
When you make these assessments, when you make these risk and risk reward sort of assessments, being in a calm state of mind is going to give you a better perspective of the risk and the reward. See, so this is what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Because obviously, if you've got a well oxygenated brain, you can think clearer. And yeah, come to think of it, obviously, when I was that weight, 133 kilograms or 293, every time I took a breath, I had miles more of blood vessels that that single breath oxygen had to service. So I can imagine that now that I am 120 pounds lighter, I've got far fewer miles of blood vessels. Therefore, each breath can service my brain more effectively than it could do before. So yeah, having a high cholesterol and fat. This is not medical advice, by the way. This is my own opinion. So having so eating a lot of saturated fat and having fewer miles of blood vessels around your body probably helps you think clearer because your brain is being serviced correctly. It makes perfect sense, really.
That's right. Yeah, and of course, if you have adequate CO2 levels, nitric oxide production, and others, you are also getting the vasodilation. You're getting more oxygen being carried to the cells. You're getting everything. All your responses are going to be much faster. Not to mention the after cold stimulation, your mitochondria are actually floating through to heal tissue around your body as well. There's so many processes going on in your body at any given time. This is what I keep saying to people. This is an ecosystem. It's not an internal combustion engine. It's not a, this is an ecosystem that has, many different processes going on at any given moment, So it's really cool.
I'm still very much a novice when it comes to learning all the I've got a good grasp of ketosis now with acetoacetate and acetones and beta hydroxybutyrate. But I don't know whether Jonathan still was, but he's his knowledge of the body is incredible. It really is. I'm learning about mitochondria and ATP, adenine triphosphate at the moment, the ATP process. And I've now realized, I'm nearly 4 years in, and I now realize that mitochondria are the key to our entire energy system. We learn all the time. We never stop learning. Anybody who says, "Oh yeah, I fully understand that now," like for example, our modern day medical doctors, because they've had all the education, haven't they? So they don't need to learn.
That's the problem with people is that, like, especially when you go to so many years of indoctrination, like you've been to the, or as far as you can go as in academia sort of thing. They think that that's it. They don't have to learn anymore. Nothing else sort of matters. Or there's nothing new under the sun sort of thing. But we are always learning. There's always, no one is an expert. No one knows exactly everything about the body, especially.
No, exactly. I mean, people often remarking that I'm the walking encyclopedia, the knowledgeable person, but nothing which I've done has been taught to me. Well, very little that I've done, apart from maybe the languages, have been taught to me from the outside. It's all research. And basically, this piece of equipment is available to everybody probably on here. And this is how I do my research. Good old, you know, the search station.
Yeah.
So easy. It really is. It's
well, it's the age of information, isn't it? You know, there's no excuse for ignorance, really.
You know, I have my 4 pillars of carnivore, which is my why, the reason why. Well, I hope that everybody has. Second one is mindset. When you've got to clear out your mind, like you would clear out your pantry and open it up, empty it to allow the new information that you are going to accept to come in. Then you do your research. You do thousands and thousands of hours of research. And finally, once you actually, once you've cleared your mind, once you've filled it with the correct stuff, then you go and find your community. You and I have known each other now, what, 2.5 years, Dave, or thereabouts?
Thereabouts.
You know, my first friend in the carnivore world was Larry Allhands, carnivore soldier. And I can tell you that I met him in the last week of August of 23. So what's that, 2.5 years ago now? And I probably met you through him shortly afterwards, because you used to do Wednesday night lives with him, I think, if I'm right. Yeah, that's probably how I met you. So yeah, we've probably known each other. I think we did our first 2-hour interview together, probably in January of 2024. So we're just over 2 years, I would say, because that interview, you and I start talking, it's hard to stop us. And you actually had to split that interview into 2. So there was 2 1-hour interviews, wasn't there? I remember it very well. I don't go back and watch those anymore, because I think that was you know, I've advanced so far now in 2 and a bit years. I find those old, you know, back when I used to drink and everything else, I find them cringeworthy. But I think we've already discussed that there is a plan for us to do another history one, and we'll talk about the forgotten heroes of our world. Actually, Dr. David Unwin put up a guy I'd never heard of the other day, Dr. Wolfgang Lutz, an Austrian guy who was low carb. I've got to do a bit of research on him. But I keep on, I will. Lainey, remind me to email DC, and we'll get a date for probably in March, I'd imagine now, for another recorded interview. We could do it live if you wanted to. We can talk about it.
Either way. Either way is fine.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think basically about 2 years ago, Dave, when we did this interview, I don't think a lot of people were doing live back in those days, were they? I think that was the recording.
Not a lot. Yeah, not as much. That was all pre-recorded stuff. Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, I think that the lives with the interaction, with the audience participation in chat, I think they're becoming a lot more popular. So maybe we'll look at doing a live. Yeah, I think that would work. Good.
Yeah. I mean, that's good. I mean, it's always, I like the lives because you can answer questions in real time, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So you can interact more. Julie's just saying that she has a panic disorder with agoraphobia. I learned through cognitive therapy, breathing most important. Yes, absolutely. Whenever it comes to controlling your nervous system, breathwork is the first and probably the only conscious nervous the only conscious way that we can actually access and control our nervous system, our nervous state. So it's vitally important that we have techniques to help us deal with different things. Like I did have, after years of being in bed, I had a lot of anxiety about leaving the house when I did start moving again, because it's just and I think it's a normal thing for anyone. Anyone would go through that, after spending years inside. But I also have ADHD, and I'm quite high on the spectrum for ADHD as well. So controlling that all comes down to my breath work and making sure that I do the correct breath work. If I just, for example, if someone with the ADHD did just like Wim Hof method, for example, whereas a lot of hyperventilation, that sort of brings you up into that sympathetic nervous state. And that's not good to help you concentrate or to help you get over anxiety and things like that as well. So you need to understand your nervous state, you need to understand what that nervous state needs and requires for you to operate at a normal, not so much a normal level, but a state where you can function, okay, where you can concentrate, where you can feel comfortable about interacting with people, you know. So like before I do lives, for example, I do breath work because it helps to calm my state before I start engaging with people, you know, and that's just something that I have to do. I always find I function much better that way. I concentrate much better that way. So I use the excuse of the need for house plants being part of the O2 CO2 cycle. Yes, I am doing my part being environmental. I do have to admit that it is very jungly around here. That's all good. I love indoor plants. I like plants in general. I like gardening. You know, it's great to be, you know, part of nature as well. You know, sort of digging in the dirt and all that sort of stuff as well. But yeah, I think it's also going to help you to breathe easier too in the house. It just I think it's also a very calming effect being around plants, being around trees, being around nature. So
Yeah,
I think that's always been beneficial as well.
you want to be careful what you're saying there, though, Dave, because basically, if somebody gets hold of this and edits it, you just said, I like plants. So somebody can ask you the question, what do you think of eating greenery? Oh, I like plants.
Yeah.
I say,
Well, I don't care. They can do what they want.
That is a trick that the BBC would use. They're very, very good at editing conversations to their own ends.
Bastards, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. We're a bit worried because the BBC actually filmed one of our meetups just before Christmas on December the 8th, in which I managed to convince Dr. Kilt to come over. And of course, they actually they filmed the entire speech process. But that is going to be edited, and we are wondering what the final edit is going to look like. This is the BBC we're talking about, remember?
Yeah, that's right. I would never do anything with those sort of people, like unless they did it live. You know.
Yeah. The only thing which I'm pleasantly surprised about is that the young lady who is the investigative journalist is a girl called Stacey Dooley over here in the UK. I kind of gave her the cold shoulder all day because she didn't look like she was one of us, and so I kind of have a snob's view of celebrities anyway. I just ignore them, and I was pleasantly surprised to see her on Facebook the other day with a guy called Eddie Abu. Do you know Eddie?
No.
He's a black guy over here in the UK. He's a former nurse, and he's now one of the strongest advocates on Facebook and TikTok in our space. The reason we don't know him so well is because he's not on YouTube. But he actually was down the bushes on Facebook or TikTok. I can't remember which one it was. It must have been Facebook because I don't have TikTok. And he said, "Hello, everybody. Guess who I just met? I met my mate Stacey in the bushes." And there was Stacey Dooley, the BBC girl. And he said, "Can I buy you a steak, Stacey?" And she said, "Yes, absolutely, Eddie. I love my steak." So I thought, you go, girl. I thought this is the investigative journalist who's investigating the carnivore lifestyle as an alternative to mainstream medicine. And there she is with Eddie Abu going and buying a steak down the bushes. So I thought, oh, my opinion has just changed of you, Stacey. So I'm kind of hopeful about if she has a view, a say in the final editing and the production of that half-hour program. And she did engage with Dr. Kiltz she asked some very probing questions. And of course, Kiltz was able to answer them. So, we thought that it was going to be a hatchet job for half an hour on us. But there is a glimmer of hope that maybe if she has a way, then it won't be such a hatchet job. So, but it's coming out in May. So watch this space. Yeah.
There's really no, as the old saying there is, there really is no bad publicity. Really, like even no
publicity is bad publicity. Yeah,
that's right. No publicity is bad publicity because at least it gets people to question it, and especially like these days, at least people are questioning the BBC in a very big deal, like, because they've woken up to the fact that they're full of shit,
Absolutely.
So,
I think somebody over in the United States has questioned him as the tune of 5.2 billion. But following that Panorama episode where they managed to splice together two parts of a speech that were half an hour apart, and they put them together to make it into one incriminating statement, which is why I said to you, I said, be careful when you say I like plants, be careful, because that could be edited into a vegan propaganda. So DC, you're carnivore. What do you think of our lifestyle? I like plants.
I don't care, mate. If it sends in my way, send them on. I don't care. I grow fruit trees too. So,
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. So I'm now a vegan. I say, Dave, do you eat fruit? You say, yeah, I grow fruit trees. And the implication is there, isn't it? We can infer from that you
what they want,
and by the question, Dave eats fruit. Yeah, no problem at all, because he grows fruit trees. So you've got to be so careful about what you say when you're giving interviews. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh, well, people are what they are, and I just don't care too much about it.
No, exactly.
I've gotten so much relief from it since Cynthia's done really well. Wonderful freedom. It's good, Cynthia. Well done. Yes, laughing is good medicine. Laughing is very good medicine, actually. That also gets you down into ventral vagal state as well. So.
I don't know whether Jeannie's still with us, but 2 mornings ago we had a fantastic hour with Barbara. Everything got out. It was the 3 of them: Barbara, Terry Gill, one of our regulars, and Jeannie. And they were talking a very risque subject, to the point where at one point, ladies, do you mind? There is a gentleman present. But that laughter for that hour was just incredible. Jeannie, Terry, and Barbara were absolutely on top form. And it was first thing in the morning, I hadn't just woken up, but I was absolutely splitting my sides. And it ended up with a fabulous, with Jeannie's song on the Grammar's Crochet. Barbara's actually did Jeannie's song, 61 and Still Fun, it's called. If anybody hasn't seen it, go and find it. It's Jeannie's story, and Jeannie was very impressed because she said it's captured my essence, Barbara. So she was very happy with it, and it's a good fun song. So
that's
good. The thing is, Dave, I go to work very early in the morning. Back in the old days, I used to watch the BBC News, and it was all about death, destruction, financial depression, collapse. I go on with Barbara in the morning now, and it's usually just fun chat. So I go to work in a much better frame of mind now than what I used to when I was watching the doom and gloom mongers.
Well, they want us in a constant state of fear, and anxiety and so on. They want us in that state. Hey, Rick, good to see you, mate. Yeah, it is kind of hard to imagine having to deal with health issues along with life's other problems. It does make life very difficult. You're stuck in situations where you can't work. You're in hospital all the time.
Exactly.
And you're always tied to hospital. Like once you're in the medical system, it's very, very hard to get out of it. And especially it's really difficult for people like Jonathan, for example. He's got a constant problem that he's always in and out of hospital. Even my condition, I still have to monitor, week in, week out, because you never know. But it makes it almost impossible.
Right, this Rick's here now, so I always give Rick a one duck salute whenever Rick's on board. Can I just make an announcement to everybody? Because I think everybody here, apart from those who are asleep at 3 a.m. in the morning in Australia, are aware of Carnival Sunday School, and we've just confirmed this week that Rick is making a return on Sunday. Juliet has just been in contact with him, and Rick has kindly agreed to come on with us. We won't. The plan is that we won't actually be revisiting Rick's 42-year carnivore story. I went carnivore at the age of 15 in 1983 because I was a small child being bullied at school. So we don't really need to hear Rick's actual full story again because, as you can tell, we all know it. So what we're going to do, the last time Rick was on the Sunday School was July the 20th. I did check that. Since when, lots of things have changed. Rick has been to 2 meetups. I don't think he'd been to a meetup before. Since July the 20th, I went to my first meetup, which is a Great British Meetup of August the 3rd of last year. Juliet went to a recent one in Tampa, and there's a very famous little romantic scene of her meeting Rick for the first time. It was, everybody knows the Romeo and Juliet balcony scene from the great play. Well, we had the Rick and Juliet sidewalk scene. And it was, yeah, very, very touching. It really was. Obviously, there was no romance involved, but it was nice to see two already old friends actually meeting for the first time, which is a bit weird in this world, but that's what happens. Yeah, so we will be talking on Sunday about community, and about how we found community and about how we developed community. As I told you before, Dave, end of August 23 was when I first met my friend in the community, Larry. My second friend, I can tell you because I checked emails, was Lauren Tucker, the English girl who lives near me, on October the 30th of 23. So, well, from October the 23 to February 26, I've gone from 2 friends in the community to probably over 200, probably well over 200 actually in the community. So, I will tell my story of how I found community. Hopefully Rick will tell his, because we know that Rick didn't find his. He was a very isolated carnivore until recently, but the 2 meetups that he's been to have really put him in the spotlight. He had a good chat with Kerry, for example. Yeah, so that will be the topic of the Carnivore Sunday School. I think if I get my way, and I think I will, we're going to tell our stories of how we all ended up knowing each other, really, and the joys thereof. Yeah. So looking forward to that. Yeah, so that's very much looking forward to having Rick back on. Yeah, so there we go.
See you, Aaron.
I can't remember what it was.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Aaron.
Yeah, Rick is he's always been sort of more isolated, hasn't he? He's the elusive Miami Yeti. He's pretty rare to find. But yeah, exactly. He's good value.
Rick has always said that he was kind of lonely down in Miami, but I think those of us who know him well, we've seen the 2 meetups that he's now attended. Hack Your Health, I think it was, and then the Kilts one. We've seen a huge smile on his face whenever he talks about them. So he's a real meetup enthusiast now. So that's really good news.
That's good. Aaron did a 40-minute workout. Well done. Good job. Actually, I caught a couple of minutes of Aaron's live. I think it was the other day. I can't remember when it was anyway. But one of her daughters must have been next to her. It looked like a spitting image, like a mirror image of Aaron. Actually, it's like like the Dr. Evil's like mini me.
Yeah.
Little mini me. Yeah, it's funny.
I know, yeah. That's Mike. Who was that? Austin Powers, wasn't it? I think that was a.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I had terrible anxiety. I still struggle to go out with George by my side, but I'm getting better. Yeah, that's good, Lainey.
She doesn't struggle to go to the shop and buy stuff, Dave. I can tell you that for free.
Yeah, well, it's good to see that you're getting over it. Like I said, like these things, it takes time, and it's about repetition and training your nervous system. That's why I do the breath. Even before I go out or do anything things like that, I like to do some breath work just to because I still get a little bit anxiety. It used to be quite bad when I first started venturing outside again, even just walking around the block. My anxiety levels were quite high. But then when I started going back to the gym, I had a lot of anxiety too, because I was very self-conscious about the way I looked as well, the way I felt, and so on. And it took years, like just years of breath work, and now I just don't care. Still get those moments.
Exactly.
Right,
Dave, we have a serious topic when it comes to the cancer issue to discuss today, because as you know, Lainey you have become either willingly or unwillingly Lainey's cancer coach. So we've had the latest set of bloods back recently, which are interesting because she is in the normal range for nearly everything. But of course, as we know, the normal range is based on a very unhealthy population. but she's abnormal in two respects. And I'm just hoping that you might be able to shed some light on this, or Jonathan, if he's still in there. We tried running it past Dave Mack and Coach Stephen this morning, but both of our questions somehow got lost on YouTube.
Okay.
Well, we don't know how, but both of us got eliminated from the things. Right. So the first one is the red blood cell distribution width. Red blood cell distribution width is too high, apparently. So that's one. So it's abnormal because it's too high. And I'll just run the second one past you at the same time, which is the MCHC, which is the mean corpuscle hemoglobin concentration, is again abnormal because again it's too high. I don't know if you come across these at all, but because we've been told abnormal, but we've had no explanation, which is typical of the modern day, because apparently we're too stupid to understand anything.
Yeah, well, that could mean that, okay, so like abnormal for, okay, so basically what these numbers are based on the average population of a female in her age category, right?
Yeah.
Good. All right, so when you're talking about like the width or the size of the hemoglobin or the red blood cells, right? This could be, I mean, this is just off the top of my head, like just without going too much into thinking about it. It could be just the simple fact that your blood cells are healthier now. Okay, so
that was my take on it.
Yeah, and that is going to read as abnormal.
Yeah.
It's the same as like when they say carnivore's HbA1c is higher because the blood cells actually live longer. My blood cells have like every report of my which gets done every few months. My blood cells actually have gotten much healthier and healthier, and as that happens, the size of my blood cells has actually gotten bigger as well, and the concentration of the blood cells. So the concentration of blood cells is going to increase as well, especially if you are doing things like to help, like cold plunge and breath work, because both of these modalities also stimulate the production of more blood cells. Okay,
that's interesting because Lainey stood next to me. When was that test done? Tuesday. The test was done on Tuesday. All the results were okay. So
my lymph nodes are all up.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention it. We'll talk about the lymph nodes in a minute, but it's interesting because Lainey only had those tests done on Tuesday. So if we go back to Tuesday from Friday, we go back 3 days. So she'd been doing breath work and cold showers for 17 days prior to having those blood tests. And as we know, the body is constantly creating through the bone marrow new red blood cells. So you're right, Dave. It's entirely possible that she is abnormal because her body is producing bigger and healthier blood cells, and more of them, perhaps. So that could well answer that question. And
but
the reason she is her lymph nodes are
healthier cells too.
Yeah. Her lymph nodes are up, which is a sure sign she's fighting something, and she has lymphedema in her leg. That was the reason why she had the blood test. So that's just to give you the picture of where Lainey is at the moment. She's doing very well mentally and physically, but the lymphedema in her leg is beginning to cause her problems. And these two results, and do you know the MCHC, the mean corpuscle hemoglobin concentration, is probably connected to the red blood cell distribution width. I'd imagine we can probably
the production of it'd be connected with the production of it. Like your production would have gone up, your blood cell production would have gone up from the cold plunge and breath work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll do some more after we finish the live. I'll check this properly, but just off the top of my head, that's what I would think would be going on there. So it's not, unless there's an affect, I really wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, that was my take. But basically, the key for me, the key thing was that word abnormal, because we are in the carnivore world, we are all abnormal, because the normal range is based on a very unhealthy population. So
that's right.
Yeah, we're abnormal, which is supposed to be a bad thing. I've always been afraid of being normal, so I'm perfectly happy to be abnormal. Believe me. So I mean that's the reason I fit in the carnival. The carnival.
So I mean, the thing is, like, compared to what, like compared to what is it abnormal, right? With the lymphedema or the lymph nodes, the cold should be helping with that. Circulation is another big thing for lymphedema. Is circulation, especially with the lower the lower limbs. If it's in the lower leg, is it?
Yes, it is. It's the ankle is swelling. The ankle is swelling up. Yeah,
the ankle is swelling. Yeah, the circulation plays a big part in that. So try to be a little bit more active while you're at home. Like just
if she gets any more active, mate. I mean, of course, Lainey is also abnormal because she has been diagnosed, not diagnosed, but she's been given disabled status, so she can't work. But I mean, the thing is that she is breaking all of the cancer rules because she's, she should now be lying on her bed every day, feeling sorry for herself, sleeping in the afternoon, getting up maybe for a couple of hours a day. And this is the reason why she's disabled. But I mean, the thing is that she's trying to find ways of burning her energy off. She takes out. I better be careful what I say, just in case anybody sees this, because we don't want to lose that status. But believe me, as a carnivore, then her life is abnormal compared to where she should be on the spectrum of activity and energy. I'll just say that because that's fairly neutral.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's fair enough. I mean, the condition's still there. The problem is that, I mean, you can only stay in bed for so long and, feeling sorry for yourself, like, and that's why so many people die from it as well. It's not just the condition, it's the way that condition makes you feel as well. A lot of people just give up.
Exactly, because I mean, the thing is that when the National Health Service can no longer treat you with chemotherapy, radiation, or any form of pill, they say that's it, end of life, you're dead. What they don't say is go away and starve your cancer, go away and take control of your own health. They just say palliative care. You were told that you had no chance.
They've got a course for every stage, except for lifestyle changes. It's all about medications, and right up until the day you die, they expect you to be, just taking up a bed and taking, their medications and so on. But of course, they don't know that. I mean, for the most part, they just don't understand these simple lifestyle changes. And not that big a change, really, but they don't understand just how effective they are, or the fact that the body can actually heal. Unfortunately, doctors just don't know enough about the body.
No, I mean, we got so many miracles in inverted commas out there now with what's happening with MS and cancer that the doctors don't like it. They really don't, because it's making them look very, very foolish. We are confounding them. I mean, the cholesterol issue. I was watching mine and Lainey's great friend Louise Benning. You probably know Louise, I expect, the Strong Carnivoress, and she was telling her cholesterol story to Barbara. Her cholesterol in UK terms, I don't know what measurements you use over in Oz, Dave, but her cholesterol is 19. And basically, if you've got a cholesterol level of 5 in this country, you are expected to have a heart attack and go on to statins. So Louise at 19 is 4 times the level for the threshold for statins. So her cardiologist was trying to push statins on her straight away and panicking and saying, you are going to have a heart attack very, very shortly. There's no question about this because you've got very high cholesterol. So she said, stop. I want a CAC score. So they took a calcium, the CAC, well, you know what a calcium score, calcium arterial concentrate, something like that anyway. And guess what the score that returned was? Go on, just have a guess.
It's pretty close to zero, I'd say.
It was zero, exactly zero.
Yeah.
The cardiologist was absolutely furious, absolutely confounded. He wasn't delighted, far from it. He was, this can't happen. That was his view.
Yeah.
You cannot have a CAC score of zero with a cholesterol score of 19. I'm not sure exactly what that will be, but I know that 5 in the US of A translates to 200. So if it follows, then no, she's got if that follows how it works, then
that
she
follows, so be around 800.
Around 800. Yeah. So, but with the CAC score, so her cardiologist was absolutely foaming at the mouth with rage because it made him look like the complete idiot. He made him look like a complete idiot, possibly because he is a complete idiot. But that's
exactly.
You know my views of the mainstream medical doctors, Dave.
So, absolutely.
I don't talk much while I'm talking about them. So
very much the same.
Yeah.
Jim was just saying breathing in the morning works for me when first wake up, and before bed. Yeah, both perfect time to do your breathing.
It certainly helps to breathe when you first wake up. It's kind of imperative.
And it certainly helps you to get into that calm, sort of restful state, so you can sleep better as well.
Yeah.
Nice. My kids keep pinching my weight. Yeah,
Dave, let's talk about yawning. Let's talk. What is the bodily function of yawning about? Because that is part of breathing, isn't it? When you think about it, because when we get tired, we yawn, or when we get bored, we yawn as well. So, can you tell us about yawning?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of reasons why you might yawn. Actually, I think it's Tony. Was it Tony Hampton? He actually did a video on yawning recently, actually, which is actually fairly informing. But yeah, basically, like when you go through, even when you're not tired and you yawn, there are a number. One, you could be bored, for example, but it actually comes down to a lot of it. Actually, will also come down to vasorestriction if you are not breathing properly. So I yawn much less now, actually, very much less. But if you've been mouth breathing, for example, just an example, or just even if you breathe too often, even if you breathe through the nose, you can still breathe too often and you hyperventilate, you blow off too much CO2, and then you get a vasorestriction. And then with that vasorestriction, you're getting less blood flow and less oxygen to the cells of the brain. So you start feeling that tired feeling as well, and then you start to yawn because you're gasping for more air, right, to get to the brain. But a lot of it just comes down to the fact that you are either breathing too often or mouth breathing, and you get that vasorestriction happening. So if you're low CO2, low nitric oxide, especially CO2 though, that means that you're obviously not getting enough oxygen to the brain, and that triggers your yawning reflex. That's just one reason. Okay. But that happens often, even when you are tired. That's also the same reason that you yawn, because you can go to sleep and not yawn, right? You can still be tired and not yawn.
Yeah.
It just happens more often when you are tired, simply because you are probably not breathing properly. Okay. Or thinking about it.
Yeah, so it's basically the brain needing more oxygen is what triggers the yawn response.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it's not getting, even though your blood, like your oxygen saturation level might be quite high, if your CO2 level is too low, it's not getting that oxygen to the cells.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, just to go back to the, you just triggered a memory of mine. I've got a book behind me there called Flashman and the Redskins, in which the fictitious character Flashman met the Apache chief that we know as Geronimo. Now, the George MacDonald Fraser, who wrote these books, did a huge amount of research, and apparently Geronimo's, I can't remember what his real name was in Apache, but his nickname in Apache was the Yawner, because apparently he used to walk around with his mouth open quite a lot. So it's interesting that he got that nickname because it was obviously he was probably his tribe did remark on the fact that he was probably a mouth breather if he was known as the Orner. He spent it was considered remarkable that he had his mouth open all the time. So yes, that's interesting because we talked about the native Indians being very conscious of their breath work. So yeah, for the fact that
some tribes, I mean not all of them, but yeah, most of them. Yeah, anxiety can be pretty bad, can be horrible. I have to make sure weights are up on the chair or something. Yeah, you start kicking them around, you know it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Take the big piggy and the next one. Okay. And let's try and catch up on some of these comments there.
Yeah.
Even though I am poor, I feel lucky to be healthy.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Sorry, I saw that comment. That's what I was going to say about Rick earlier on. Myself and Rick were on with Dr. Kilt last Sunday, and we were talking about relative wealth. Is it, health versus wealth? And I did tell the story of my school friend. It would have been his 61st birthday on the 18th of February. Apart from the fact he didn't make it. Basically, this gentleman was he worshipped money for the sake of having money. In fact, you were on the same you were on the same live with us actually.
Yeah. That's right.
He was a type 1 diabetic who basically hoarded money because he liked to look at his bank account. He liked to see the money there. So he used to rub everybody's nose in it. I've done so well. I'm so well for myself. Done so well for myself. His saying was, "Life is a game, and money is my way of keeping the score." At the age of 57, he was a type 1 diabetic. His mother was a doctor, so he believed all the bullshit that the doctors spoke. He injects himself with insulin every day. He was going to live forever because of insulin. Lost his toes at the age of 57. Shortly afterwards, thereafter, lost his life because he never woke up again. And I did ask a rhetorical question. I live from paycheck to paycheck, and I've spent all the money I've earned over the years on travel, education, partying as well. I'm not ashamed of that fact. And I did ask a rhetorical question: who is the wealthier amongst us? Me at the age of 60, still having to work very hard for a living, or my school friend who is now at the age of 57 became a memory with over £1 million in the bank? And Rick said, it's George who is the wealthier. So wealth is very relative. And Rick has said
absolutely. Everything in life that we've been taught that we should be chasing, like forever chasing these things, like the newest thing, the newest phone or the newest computer or the newest car or house or whatever. All of that is stuff that that can be taken away from you. All of that stuff that even the clothes off your back, all of that can be taken away from you very, very quickly in the space of minutes. All right.
Yeah.
The only thing that you can't take away from someone is their experiences. So I think life is about experiences, and that's why I'm trying to experience as much as I can. That's why I took up free diving, and I'm doing all this other study stuff, because these are things that I want to experience, and it's these experiences that give us a more fulfilling sort of experience of life, So that to me is more important, rather than chasing the next big thing,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, nobody can
Rick
say
says that he's poor, but he Rick, he also says that the one thing he can give is time, and he does. He's very generous with his time, and Rick, on that subject, time is the most precious thing that we have. It is all that we have. So that is being generous enough to give someone your time is far more. I think it's far more generous than just say giving a little bit of money or something like that. Giving someone your time is one of the most precious gifts you can give people.
Yeah, Laney found an interesting philosophy thing. I'll see if I can find it. Wisdom and humor. Yeah, here it is. You sell your irreplaceable time for printable paper. And there's a picture of, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a picture of somebody who is a worker, clearly a worker, and somebody who is a boss. And basically the worker is giving this boss his time for a piece of foldable paper, which is money, which of course money is pretty meaningless. As you said, it's a tool. It has no value in its own right. It's only what you can do with it. So I like that one. Lady found that one.
I mean, it's good to have money to have those experiences. It's good to have money but as you said, money is a tool for those experiences, so that you can do these other things.
It's not a thing which exists in its own right. I say my friend who died at the age of 57, you still love looking at the 6 figures or 7 figures on his bank statements, but that's meaningless when you're in the grave.
Well, that's right. I mean, like at the end of that, it's all just zero, isn't it? It's
exactly
zero, zero.
I mean, the saying is there are a couple of sayings. You can't take it with you, and you come with nothing, and you leave with nothing. So what's the point in having it in the meantime? I prefer my attitude. I've been out, made a fortune, and blown a fortune. But you know what? I think, what was it George Best said, the famous English football player? He said, "I've made a fortune," and he said, "I spent it all on wine, women, and song." He said, "The rest I wasted."
Yeah.
There we go.
Fair enough. Rick's talking about Butter Bob, the original YouTube carnivore, has returned. I've never heard of this Butter Bob guy except from Rick, of course, but I'll have to check it out, I guess.
Yeah, he did a very famous viral video, which is butter makes your pants fall off, as in the American version of pants, trousers. Okay. You and I might know. He did sort of just emerge very briefly. What happened is he suffered a bereavement, which really set him back mentally. He just made a very brief cameo appearance the other day. We, as in the Kilts Health Coaches, reached out to him and asked him if he would like to come on with Dr. Kilts on the 6 a.m. live. He came back and said, "No, that's not what I'm back for." He said, "This is the whole experience has really taken it out of me." He said, "I'm not ready to put in a public appearance as yet." So yeah, Butter Bob, it was only a little cameo. He's one of the OGs, but everybody, please respect him, because he's not ready to come back to be a full-time member of the community, and he'll let us know when he is.
Yeah, fair enough. Question, David: has your kidney function gotten any better over the years since going carnivore and breathwork? Yes, it has, actually. In fact, the last, obviously, about 4 months ago, thereabouts. See, like when I was first diagnosed, I only had one kidney working. My left kidney had shrunk down basically to about the size of a pea. Basically, there was almost non-existent, really, because I had such a large tumor around my aorta that was sitting on top of my kidneys and so on. My right kidney was only functioning at 12%. But yeah, my kidney health now, they're in a normal healthy range. All my markers are in a normal healthy range. My kidneys, and my left kidney has actually grown almost, not quite the same size as the right kidney, but almost, the same size as the right kidney now. So it's actually grown maybe 3 or 4 times bigger, maybe more. So yeah, my kidney health has really improved, and that's including, after the 3 years of chemotherapy, I had a lot of fibrosis on all of my organs, including my brain. I had fibrosis in my heart, my liver, both my kidneys. A lot of scar tissue. Okay, because I was just completely cooked. So even from that, then like that function even after all that chemotherapy, I was left in a state where all of my organs were pretty much on the verge of failing, even after all that. So yeah, the improvement since then, the last almost 11 and a half years now, has been incredible. I've actually, I mean, my heart measurements and things like that are actually much younger than my actual age now, in fact. So yeah, I think it's incredible to see what's actually happening. I think a lot of that comes down to too the fact that what the thing that we're talking about with cold plunge and the mitochondria actually helping to repair organ tissue and other tissues around the body. I think a lot of that comes down to those. I mean, there are 8 modalities that I talk about, but the 3 top ones are the cold plunge, the diet, and of course, and the breath work. And it's kind of hard to say just how much it's meant to my health, actually, like, because my organs were in such a state that I wasn't actually going to die from the cancer. I was going to die from the organ failure, after the transplant, So yeah, it's quite impressive to me. I think it's incredible just how resilient the body can be, in its ability to recover and to heal, as long as you give it the right stimulus, of course,
Can I just jump in here a sec, Dave, and talk about your channel? I can't remember how old it is exactly now, but I don't know. I know all of everybody in the audience tonight is your friend, but I'm just wondering how long people have known you for. Now, just a quick YouTube trick. Whenever I'm feeling sort of slightly down or I want to remind myself how lucky I am, what I do is I go on DC Rebuilding, so I'm a subscriber, and in the top bar there's a trick. You can put the most popular, the oldest, the newest, the latest. I put the oldest first, and so Dave's very first video comes. Was it 13 minutes long? I think, DC.
Yeah, about that.
When you tell the story, that was DC's introduction to his channel, and it tells the full story, which he's just touched on. The 9.1 earthquake, followed by the you're going to die, mate. The diagnosis of lymphoma. Oh, but you recover from that. But 2 years later, hey, guess what, mate? You're dead again. And here he is, some 13 years on. So yeah, if anybody hasn't actually known DC since the start of DC Rebuilding, please go onto flip the channel upside down and go and watch that 13-minute video, because then that will put everything into context as to what Dave's just been saying. And it's also the video that I sent to Barbara so that she could write Dave's story. So if you listen to Barbara's He Beat the Unbeatable, that was the story that he told on his very first video on DC. It was called DC Learning to Live back in those days, but it's DC Rebuilding now. So yeah, please, if those of you who know DC but haven't gone all the way back, scrolled back all the way down, flip the channel on its head, watch that 13-minute video, because anyway,
I mean, the first one had to be under 15 minutes. So I really couldn't talk about it too much, actually. But even after the transplant, like I was saying, like, they were expecting me to die within a few months after, because of organ failure. So yeah, there's a few times they told me I wasn't going to make it, including even during the transplant, where there was a few times where I stopped breathing. So there was a number of times that I wasn't going to make it, even through the before that with the clinical trial. That was pretty rough too. But
yeah, Julie, can we just say, Julie, can we just say, we cancer's a terrible thing. Very recently, myself and Lainey lost a very close family friend at the age of 73 to cancer. She was the best friend of our daughter. There was one of those intergenerational friendships. I actually knew her quite well when I was a teenager, because she was around my friend at that time. So, and yeah, it hurts. It really does. And And we've got another very good friend of ours who, when we went to the cancer center back in October, she was sat there and she said, I have to tell you guys that I'm now palliative. We haven't spoken to her since, seen her since. We don't know what's happened to Millie. Millie, her name is. So yeah, it hits home. And obviously when it's your spouse or your loved one or your children or your parents, and it hurts even more. But yeah, cancer, I think, I don't think there's anybody who can safely say now that they haven't lost somebody in their either family or close circle of friends to cancer.
Well, that's right. I mean, now in Australia, they've normalized the fact that 1 in 2 men will have cancer, you know.
Yeah, exactly. That's the figure I hear as well. 1 in 2 of us, 1 in 2 of us will get cancer in our lifetimes. Actually, no, you bloody moron. If we go back to eating properly, we'll go back to cancer being a very rare disease. But they're too stupid to understand that, aren't they? So there we go.
That's right.
So cancer.
Yeah, I really, like, honestly, I think stupid's going to take care of itself, soon enough.
Yeah.
So, honestly, Gemma, I'm really sorry to hear that. I can't imagine, losing someone that close. The thought of that, losing my wife would be unbearable for me. So, my heart goes out to you for that, because I don't think that's something it'd be so hard to recover from. That would be, I think, much harder than what I've been through, So yeah, Lainey's a strong lady, as George. That's right.
So that's not always considered a good thing in this household, believe me.
Yeah, it depends on how you look at
it. We all do something very dangerous every day, like fly airplanes, cross the road, and live with another human being. So yeah.
So George yawns at me all the time. I think he's bored and not tired. I think he's not breathing properly, Lainey. I think that's what it is. But it might be all the size as well. Like, listening to Lainey, he's like, oh. He's blowing up too much CO2.
I pretend to yawn so she can't lip read what I'm actually saying about it.
That's okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I prefer older things. Yeah, I agree, Rick. Yeah. Older things are built to last as well.
I mean, right, let's compare this. Let's compare the United States of America to Cuba. Rick is a 50s throwback. He's very, very proud of that fact. But if you go to Cuba now, you'll see all the automobiles over there are from the 1950s, because basically they can't replace the modern parts. So what they've had to do is they've had to become very ingenious. They've had to become very good engineers. Rick is very much the same, as we know. And is that not more admirable than having this disposable?
Well, they're doing the best they can with the situation they're in. Like, they can't. I mean, well, for one thing, like, it's better for the environment rather than keep making new cars, isn't it?
Yeah.
They haven't been allowed to import because they're murderous, communist, bloody dictators and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a horrible situation down there in Cuba.
It is, yeah. Oh, let's talk about.
And the same things happen to Iran. The thing that's going on in Iran at the moment, like, these were Egyptian. I'm not going to say they were, because they'll get kicked off, but they were installed by the Jimmy Carter administration. In the 70s, Persia was a very thriving Western style country.
Yeah,
so if you think it can't happen to a Western country, have a look at Iran. Have a look at Afghanistan before the 70s. Right.
Yeah.
And in 79,
I remember the Iranian Revolution and the chap who led it.
And it was the Democrats that did the same thing. Like, when Obama did the same thing in Ukraine in 2008 and 9, when they took over, they changed the regime, in the Ukraine.
Yeah.
So if you think it can't happen in a Western country, have a look at Iran. Have a look at Ukraine. Have a look at Afghanistan. That's exactly what they did.
Well, remember the Mujahideen were funded by the United States. I won't use the thing. And guess who was the leader of the Mujahideen? a chap who became very famous on the 11th of September 2000. So basically, the United States actually created their own nemesis. It's a crazy world we live in, Dave. It really is.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. Like people, there are things. There's in every country is the same like this. Like there are two sides to everything, right? And when you have all these leaders that create all these bankers and so on that create all these laws and so on, it's all just one big giant club behind the scenes. They all get along just fine. But they don't want our country to be like that. They want us all to be blended, one big third world shithole that is under control, that will have a small population that they can control easier, control all our movements and so on, use us like slaves.
Yeah.
I was just watching something this morning about like some of the you're talking about human trafficking, for example, like the children who just undocumented children from the UK, for example, and throughout America, from the 1800s, from 1820, I think it was, to 18, it was like for 75 years or something. There was like 250,000 children in America, but many more from the UK who were separated from siblings and just told to or shipped over here to Australia or to America. They just come undocumented, no parents, no one knew where they came from, and they were just shipped off to farms or to whoever needed labor and so on, just to find homes for these children. This sort of stuff has been going on for a very long time, and it's a bloody big mess. People are going to understand soon that there's more evil here than you could possibly comprehend.
Yeah, I think I told the story. I can't remember whether you were on the live when I did the other day about my experience in the first Gulf War, because I was an Arabic linguist. I spoke Arabic, which meant that when the foreign army, I won't call them the enemy, but the Iraqi army surrendered to us, I got to meet these guys, got to talk to them. They weren't the enemy. They were nice guys. They've got a few stories about it. We didn't want to be here, and we're very relieved. That they almost regard it as liberation themselves. And I realized then that actually my enemy wasn't in front of me. And that it wasn't in front of, we weren't enemies. My enemy was behind me. My enemy was many thousands.
And it's the same for them.
Yeah.
And it's the same for them. And this is something that's come up recently too. Is that, and this narrative really pisses me off. Actually, people keep saying that for example, recently Japan has told this certain ethnic group that they are not allowed to have their call to prayer and all this. There's certain types of buildings and so on, and their own burial grounds and all that sort of stuff in Japan. So everyone says, "Oh, Japan's racist." That's bullshit. That being a nationalist country, or being a country that is preserving their own culture, is not racist. They are very inclusive people, Japanese. I never had a problem in Japan where I would go to festivals, all kinds of different events, and they were so inclusive. They just love to show me around and show me things that they do. And really embrace me into their culture a lot, and their family and all the rest. As long as you respect their culture and their way of doing things, that's all it is. It's about that, and it's like they are preserving their culture and their heritage and their country. All right. And again, if you think it can't, if you think that a Western country, or for example, can't fall and end up like Iran is now, have a look at Iran's history. That is exactly how it all starts.
The peacock throne.
And Japan is preserving themselves.
It was the peacock throne. The Shah who was overthrown in 1979.
That's right.
He was the very
79.
Much, yeah.
And
I think
it was the Democrats and like the Jimmy Carter administration that sorted that. So because they couldn't do it by themselves. There's no way they could have done that.
And then during during that particular revolution, the US embassy got taken over, and the staff were held as hostages. There was a totally botched attempt by the US to actually go and rescue them with helicopters. They put the wrong filters in the helicopters, and they all got clogged with sand, and they lost a lot of very brave service people that day. Yeah, I remember that fairly well. That was
just like Benghazi.
Freedom or something. I can't remember, but it was that was Carter. That was actually just before Carter lost his presidency or handed over the presidency. What he was trying to do was leave a legacy, and his only legacy was failure. So
exactly, he was a miserable failure and just a pathetic, ignorant fool.
Exactly. Quick one for Cynthia. I can see there is a question. We will be coming to that fairly shortly, by the way.
We'll get to that. I just want to say hello, Mandy. It's really good to see you. Thank you for joining us. You're right, Cynthia. It is awesome. It's I mean, of course, I don't sort of think about it every day, but you know, when I do think about it, it still just fascinates me how the body works. It really does. The body's your temple. Yeah, I did absolutely rebuild it, Laney. That's why it's rebuilding. Yeah. Sorry to see you guys, Josephine. Thanks for joining me, though. I really appreciate it. Let me see. Yeah, enjoy your beautiful day, Josephine. I hope you have a great night or day. So, question, Cynthia, George. I've watched Barb's video she made for you. Do you work with racehorses like in the video?
Right, this is going to be a 5-minute story, maybe even slightly longer. I hope we got time. We've always got time because these things go on forever when we do. Okay, so back in the late 60s, early 70s, my brother, who is 10 years older than me, went to school with a gentleman who was also very interested in horse racing. They got interested in horse racing together. My brother Roger went on to become a soldier. His friend went on to become a racehorse trainer. I picked up, because I was 10 years younger, I picked up on my older brother's interest. So I've actually been interested in horse racing since I was 5 years old in 1971. So I've got a lot of knowledge. Many years down the line, the son of my brother's friend, that makes sense. Yeah, it is. My brother's friend's son decided to take on the reins of the family business of training racehorses, by which time I become the son's friend, if you see what I mean, sort of like almost like an older advisor to him. So when he decided to launch on May the 21st, 2024, he asked me to help him launch his business. My speciality is knowing the history of horse racing. So in other words, I know the pedigrees, I know the bloodstock of horse racing, I know the breeding and the potential capability. So in Barb's video, she talked very early about the fact that I didn't ride horses, but I could see a future in muscle and bone, and basically pedigrees written in blood and ink. So I could read what was written in ink, but I could also give you the bloodlines that ink was expressing. So I was known what was known as a bloodstock agent. So when we went to buy at the sales, I could advise this horse will be good over 3 miles on soft ground, or this horse will need no more than 2 miles on very firm ground. That's a very simplified view of it. So yes, I did work within the not with horses, but as an advisor to those who do work with horses. No, horses to me, they bite at one end, kick at the other, and they chuck you off in the middle, as I discovered, which I didn't get back on again. So yes, I was attached to the horse racing world. As with a lot of business ventures, things didn't go quite sweetly between myself and my young friend. If there were a few issues that arose, and we bought some horses together. One of whom ran yesterday, actually, a horse called Spring Serenade, and came a very good second. And she is expected to go on to win her next race. We're still friends, but I don't do any work for him anymore, because basically I like to be appreciated, shall we say. And really the crunch point came in May of last year, of 2025. when I never did it for pay, but I did it for kind of gratitude. And he put on a Facebook post. In fact, that was a previous November, thanking all his wonderful staff, naming them all. I didn't get a mention. I'd gone from being his virtual business partner to not even getting a mention on Facebook. Facebook is toxic. And then I wasn't getting paid in cash terms, but I was getting logs for the fire. And then one day, his father, the friend of my brother, he said, "Oh, we can't afford to keep on giving George these logs." So I thought, okay, I'm not exactly being appreciated, am I? But I found them two. I've helped find 2 winners now. So in May of this year, I kind of thought I was getting further and further into our world, the carnival world, both of which are passion projects, neither of which I was getting paid for. But I found myself getting more and more appreciated, shall we say, in one world than the other. And the world in which I was not getting appreciated was the horse racing world. So I kind of turned my back on horse racing, and really for 3 weeks I was kind of miserable because I was missing it. But then on June the 6th, I teamed up with the wonderful Stephanie Taylor, who many of you will know, and we joined the Kilts Health coaching course together, which started on July the 1st. And to quote Steph, she said, "George, I am delighted that you have decided to go 100% Team Carnival." And that's what I did. I made the decision that I would spend all of my spare hours, as Lainey will tell you, all of my waking hours, and probably I dream about it as well, 100% Team Carnival. So yes, to answer you, Cynthia, up until May of this year, I was very much involved with the horse racing. In fact, no, even more recent than that, because I did a cameo performance when John asked me to on August of last year for a day. But then just very recently, I actually told him, I can no longer help you, John. I can no longer give any time to horse racing because my time is 100% with healing humanity, with Kilts Health, with Barbara. She and I have done a lot of work together. We often discuss ideas for her music. You'll find that quite a few of hers have come from chats that we've had. It's just such a worthwhile thing. Doing lives on YouTube with DC, doing lives on YouTube with Juliet, with Doctors Nelson and Kilts, and just changing people's lives, inspiring people's lives. That's all I really want to do now from now on. It's I'm not sure whether I'm ever going to monetize this because I'm very well paid in the construction industry, which is interesting because I've just been headhunted. And they made me an offer I can't actually refuse because I was going to pack it in May and try and get the limited company up and running, which I'm still going to do, get the limited company so I can go teaching, and also organizing events and tourism as well, which will come to, which people will hear about, especially after June of this year when a couple of mine, Coach Juliet's coming over with her husband Doug, and I'm giving her a tour for free, but I say for free, but basically she's going to be my guinea pig, and I'm going to put together an itinerary which includes some very famous landmarks here in the UK, which includes Cheddar Gorge, Glastonbury Tour, and Stonehenge. And the only thing that I'm charging her is her feedback because she's a very effective businesswoman. I want her to actually approve it, so that I will be offering educational tours. But I've been offered now a job which is supposed to last from March till October. It's a job which I left a couple of years ago to move on to a better job. Apparently they miss me, and they've just come back with an offer which I would be very, very stupid to refuse, financially wise, anyway.
That's good.
And the job, because it is a summer job only, because it's a flood defense job, and basically it can't be a winter job because the solid land that it's on disappears underwater. So it's guaranteed to finish in October, in which case, and I can guarantee to get some money into the company, guarantee to afford to fly to Michigan for the wonderful carnivorous grandma Robin Herron, her Impact festival at Kalamazoo. Lainey is also coming with me. So yeah, I would be stupid to turn down this summer of very, very well paid work. So that sounds good, man. that's the latest. So Cynthia, yeah, to answer your question, I did work as a blood stock consultant, an unpaid blood stock consultant in the horse racing industry. It has been one of my passions all of my life. I've now put it on the back burner, and I'm now 100% Team Carnival. So there's your answer.
Very good. Cynthia is impressed with my knowledge of the American presidents, but I think it's different for Americans because America is pretty much the leader of the free world.
Free world.
Yeah, supposedly. I'll put that in quotations. Supposedly free world. I got the West anyway. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. The West. That's better one, David.
So I think like other countries obviously pay more attention to like who's the president.
I can name Bob Hawke because as a former alcoholic, apparently he had a very good. He didn't hold the world record for downing a pint in one or something, Dave. I think if you'll find he did, or the number of beers in an hour or something.
Yeah, he was an alcoholic, but he was also a pedophile.
Okay, I didn't know that about him. Yeah. There was a guy called Paddy something or other as well, I think, wasn't there, who famously put his arm around Queen Elizabeth?
Yeah, someone like that, wasn't it? But
was it somebody Keating? Somebody Keating?
Paul Keating, Paul Keating.
Paul Keating, that's right. Yeah, sorry, the reason I call him Paddy is because we had a Paddy Keating in the army. Yeah, it's Keating, that's right. But I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They're all grubs. They're all grubs, all of them.
Yeah.
Like the Labour Party here in Australia, like they're all members of the Fabian Society. They're a socialist group that have been hell bent on destroying the West and so on. So
yeah, well, we're under Keir Starmer at the moment, and he's doing a very good job. Yeah. He's doing a very good job of alienating the entire country. So everybody's up in arms, and in my opinion, it's worthwhile having that piece of human excrement in place for 5 years just to actually wake up the British lion again, because that's what he's done. Exactly. The lion has been asleep. The English and British lion has been asleep. He has poked it, and believe me, there is serious anger over here now. So he's done it.
It still drives me crazy that it always takes so long for people to wake up, though. You look at the UK, like pretty much most of your mayors and so on are all from different countries. Like they're not even English, right?
I know exactly. At the risk of, I've got to be very careful what I say here, but I won't name any particular cities. But I feel that when I live in a market town, when I go to the bigger cities, I feel like I am visiting a foreign country these days. I won't name them. Won't name any cities.
No, you're right. I mean, like I said, we're talking about that. You don't think the West can fall to the same thing. Look at Iran's history, and that's the UK is basically just another extension of Iran at the moment. And Australia is heading exactly the same way.
Yeah, we all are. There's no question.
Yeah. George has full conversations in his sleep.
I do. Apparently, I was having one in Arabic the other night. Believe it or not, it's probably something to do with the first Gulf War.
Probably.
But we were talking earlier about the fight or flight thing. Lainey knows now not to try and wake me up suddenly at night, because having been in a war in hostile, I spent a lot of my life in hostile zones. I've always been sleeping on the hair trigger, literally. Usually I've had either weapon in my sleep bag with me, or when I was in the bodyguard world, I had my Glock 9mm pistol on my side. So, I was always, you never go into full deep sleep.
So you were trained to be that way. Like you trained your nervous system to be that way. So it's really hard to come back out of that, isn't it?
Exactly. To explode out of sleep, ready to fight. You don't never lose it. I mean, the other night, for some reason, Lainey came in, told me I was snoring or something, and said, and she woke me up, and I woke up screaming, literally. And she sometimes forgets that it's not a good idea to wake me out of sleep, because I am trained I trained my mind to be always on a hair trigger. So it's not. It goes with any soldier as well. Don't be waking soldiers up out of sleep suddenly. Do it very gently, because we do tend to explode out of sleep.
Just trying to catch up on these comments. Most of you're talking to each other. That's all right.
Oh, no, it's great. That's the thing.
Yeah.
If I've noticed that on the Kilts morning live, half the time You got the panel talking amongst themselves. Dr. Kills is talking to the guests, but you read the chat and you write how much are people actually concentrating on what the guest is saying. So everybody's talking about Did I just see Joe in them? Did we see Joe? Joe's sleeping. Yeah, we did. Joe's sleeping. You're right. You're right. I saw. I caught about 10 minutes of you and Jonathan earlier on. So that was I was at work, so I couldn't hang around. But it was great to see you.
That's how I drink morning coffee. Also, I got my husband to drink it. Okay. I like butter and bone broth. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
What was the coffee discussion? Was that butter in your coffee? I suspect.
I think. I think Aaron was talking about. I've been here, been fasting all day, so I'm back. I think Aaron was talking about coffee here.
Yeah, if it's Erin talking about coffee, remember she's known as Butter Woman, so it's going to be butter in her coffee for sure.
Said something about egg coffee or something. Fatty egg coffee.
Have we seen that on her lives? I think we might have done. Yeah, I think that she might add eggs in possibly.
Yeah. Fatty coffee with egg yolks.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's interesting. I found Danish Creamery. Yeah,
I found the Danish Creamery, 85% butter fat.
Yeah, when it comes to butter, Erin's your go-to girl because she's Butter Woman on Azakana Raw Avenger, alongside Amy Davis, who is Bacon Woman, and they often go on adventures together, shall we say?
Okay. Well, we're at the 2-hour mark, and we're all caught up with the comments. So I think we might leave it there today. What do you say? Yeah,
absolutely. Because that's 2 hours. 2 hours. We famously did that first ever interview together for 2 hours. It goes very quickly. And obviously, it does help to have all our friends because we are friends in one community now in the chat. Dave and myself will be doing a special live, which will be focusing on the forgotten heroes of our place. Professor John Yudkin, for example, John Rollo, Dominic Larry, the French surgeon who discovered horse meat versus scurvy.
I think that's an interesting subject because this has been going on for hundreds of years. We're talking about people who have spoken out against that, like big corporate food. We're talking about Johannes Stephenson. I really like. I really admire him.
I'm a great fan of him as well. Yeah.
He's a great explorer, and he was very outspoken against Kellogg's because of the simple fact that it was all BS, obviously. But along the years, like they've silenced these corporations, these dogmatic corporations that actually started and controlled and own still today. They own all of the educational institutions that teach nutrition. But this fight has been going on for hundreds of years between people with real common sense and real knowledge and these dogmatic, religious-based and just pure evil people. These corporations of these food corporations. This is there's been a number of people over the years that have spoken out against them, but obviously they don't have the power that these large corporations did.
No, exactly.
Or the people behind them,
Right, Dave, I want to tell a story now for a couple of minutes. And that is I sent Coach Juliet an audio book, which was written in 1889 this afternoon. And the first chapter is a hilarious book. It's great. Anybody got a pen and paper? It's called 3 Men in a Boat, not to mention the dog in brackets, by Jerome K. Jerome. And it is on YouTube. You can find it. It was written in 1889, so Victorian in Victorian England. The first chapter is basically Jerome feels there's something slightly wrong with him. So he goes to the British Museum and finds a medical encyclopedia, and he does his own research on what is wrong with him. And to his horror, he discovers that he has every condition from A to Z in that encyclopedia, apart from housemaid's knee. So he actually discovers that he has everything from anthrax to zymosis, I think it was, or something like that, or arthritis to zymosis. So he had to go to the doctor. The joke is there's nothing wrong with him. There was nothing wrong with him when he walked into that museum. When he walked out, he was a cripple on his deathbed, according to him. So he went and saw his doctor, and his doctor pushed him, pulled him, headbutted him, took him by surprise, clapped him on the chest, and then apparently he wrote a prescription, and which he folded up and gave to Jerome, the author. Now, Jerome didn't bother reading it. He merely marched off to the nearest chemist, or pharmacist, as we would call them nowadays, and presented it. The pharmacist returned it and said, "I can't really fulfill this." He said, "But you have every pill under the sun." Interesting. 1889, he mentioned pills. That was interesting because of the Flexman report wasn't until 1911. And he said, "No, there's nothing I can do for you here." So Jerome read it. And the prescription that the doctor had written, or imaginary doctor, I don't know how true this is. They get this: 1 pound of beef and 1 pint of ale every 6 hours, lots of fresh air, bed by 11 o'clock sharp every night, and don't stuff your head with nonsense that you don't understand. That sounds like that. That's, apart from the pint of ale, that sounds like a prescription that one of our own doctors today would have written. A pound of beef every 6 hours, and we would say maybe a bottle of sparkling water instead of the ale, but plenty of fresh air, activity, and good sleep. Is that not the recipe that our doctors would actually, the prescription that our doctors would give now? And that was that prescription was created in the mind of Jerome K. Jerome in 1889.
Yeah.
So just think about that, folks. We've known this for a long, long time. It's forgotten knowledge.
We have. Yeah.
Veganism didn't appear in the world until 1944. 1889, eat a pound of beef every 6 hours. 1944, veganism appears. When did statins appear? 1987. So statins appeared nearly 100 years exactly after Jerome K. Jerome wrote that ideal prescription for a healthy life.
Yeah,
it's something to think about, folks. I can highly recommend 3 Men in a Boat. 3 Men in a Boat, brackets, not to mention the dog, by Jerome K. Jerome. It's an audio book on YouTube. Go and find it. It is hilarious because it is all about hypocrisy, about the about how people say one thing and do another. How basically, just go and find it. You will love the first chapter because it's all about how you can delve into medical research, a perfectly healthy human being, and leave it an hour later knowing that you have every illness under the sun. I wonder how many of us have done that in the past. Yeah, I commend.
So many people do that, though. You know, it's the thing is, like, a little knowledge can be a dangerous thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how it goes, isn't it?
Yeah. Exactly.
Anyway,
Joe's saying George, most doctors would write a prescription for 10 milligrams of amitriptyline now. Exactly. Not a pound of beef. So there we go. Yeah, all right, and Dave, I think it's we've got 20 minutes until Grammar goes live in the crochet corner. I will be joining her at this end of the night tonight.
All right. Well, maybe I'll see you over there. And thanks for joining me, George. Really appreciate it. Always great catching up and having a chat.
Yeah, I always look forward to it. And I will get that email across to you, and we will do. Well, I mean, we can probably do it at the same time in a couple of weeks' time on this particular slot if you wanted to. That's no problem.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, we'll do that in that case. So I look forward to it. All right, and Dave, you end the stream, and then we'll end.
All right, then. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate you joining me. Always good to see you here and enjoying the chat and joining in. Again, if you do have any more questions that you want to ask me about any of this sort of stuff, just leave them in the comments. Remember, the comments and the likes really help to get this out there, and hopefully I can keep doing these videos for you and keep bringing more information as well. So if you do have a question, please just leave in the comments and I will get back to you. Okay.